All right, we are here for test number 2. Did our VO2 max increase? Did it stay the same? Did it decrease? We're gonna find out.
Okay, we're doing VO2 max test number 2.
Luke, I am your father. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today, like we discussed, we're going to be talking about the halfway video review for the Airofit breathing trainer. Now, for those of you guys who are just tuning in, you're like, what are we here for? What are we talking about? I'm confused. What is he holding up and why is he making a Star Wars joke? I'll put a video above in my cards that'll kind of detail where you can watch my initial video where I describe the process, what we're testing, why we're testing, what the Airofit trainer is, and what it claims it can do. So if you haven't watched that, I recommend you watch that first. So, to catch all of you guys up on the same page, just to kind of reiterate, make sure we're all in the kind of same general quadrant, is what are we doing here? Right now, we're 4 weeks in. We've been using the Airofit trainer for about 4 weeks, and we're going to be talking about what improved, what didn't improve, what stayed the same, what were some unexpected improvements after using the Airofit trainer for 4 weeks. Now, like I mentioned in the previous initial video, we're going to be measuring it using 4 separate data points. We're going to be measuring total vital lung capacity, inhale pressure, exhale pressure, and VO2 max. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the data. As I mentioned in the previous video, 3 of the 4 data points that we're going to use to test the Airofit trainer and see if it actually improves my performance actually comes from the app that comes with the trainer itself. And so those 3 data points are vital lung capacity, inhale pressure, and exhale pressure. And I determine those data points by using a specific test in the app. It's called the lung test. And I take it every single day. And what's cool about the lung test is the fact that the app keeps the data from what your scores were the day before, the week before, the year before, and you can actually track your increase or decrease via a positive or negative slope of watching the data. Does the data go up? Is it getting better? Is it staying the same? Is it decreasing? So anyways, real briefly, I'm gonna show you guys how I do a lung test. I'm gonna real briefly screen record my phone. Put the sucker, I'm gonna go to single session. At the very top, you'll see lung test there with Frederick Agidius. I will click on that. I'm gonna change my dials to F and 6. I'm gonna hit start. And then it's gonna give me a dial. It's gonna tell me to inhale fully as hard as I possibly can. And then it's gonna immediately tell me to exhale fully as hard as I possibly can. So I'm gonna do that real fast. And that's really quite it. It's pretty simple. So that's just kind of one test I do. It's not a drill that we do to improve our breathing, but it's a test to kind of measure it. So right now, if you look at the results, it shows my total vital lung capacity is 3.4 liters. It shows my maximal inhale pressure, and then it shows my maximal exhale pressure. So now let's actually get into the inhale pressure, exhale pressure, and vital lung capacity and see if it's improved over the past 4 weeks. The first data point we're going to go over is vital lung capacity. And I'm going to caveat this real quickly. Vital lung capacity, out of the 4 data points that we kind of started with, is probably one I'm going to completely just throw out for the next final 4 weeks. It's just, I don't think it's a data point that I can actually use to get anything out of, to see any kind of performance increase, and it's not helpful. And I'll kind of get into why after I show the graph of it. But let me quickly define it. Vital lung capacity essentially describes the maximum amount of volume I can hold in my lungs. And I'm no medical expert, but I don't think using this tool will really help me substantially, significantly increase my amount of volume I can hold in my lungs. Sure, if you teach me how to breathe through my diaphragm, I can increase it a little bit if I breathe down deep, but I don't think it's going to be substantial over the course of time using this tool. So vital lung capacity, I'm probably going to throw out as a data point going forward, but regardless, we're still going to look at the data. So I'm going to quickly throw up the graph of the tool that actually will show you the data and graph it over time. As you can tell when you look at this graph, it's just literally all over the place. It's like literally someone took a shotgun and just shot the graph with it. Like there's no positive trend, there's no negative trend, and there's no just straight line trend. It's literally just like I mentioned, a shotgun effect. So there's really nothing I can glean from this. It's just all over the place. And I think when it comes down to vital lung capacity, there are so many variables that come down to it. You know, when did I measure it? Was it in the morning? You know, if you're like me, when you wake up in the morning, you might wake up congested. Was I congested? Was it later in the day after when I was done working out? When did I take this test? Was I feeling good? Was I coughing? Like, it just, I don't think looking at this, it's a really great measurement tool, because I mean, you can't tell me that my lungs went from 4.5 liters of volume down to 2.0 liters of volume over the course of 4 weeks, just kind of pitter patter. It's just, from my perspective, it's probably the weakest data point. But the other two data points we're gonna go over, actually we can see some kind of trend, and that's gonna be, the first one we're gonna go over is actually inhale pressure. So like I mentioned, the next data point we're gonna go over, we're actually gonna combine both of them together, is maximal inhale pressure and maximal exhale pressure. And so I'm gonna quickly throw this graph up on the screen on my phone, where, like I mentioned, the app kind of measures it. And as you can see, there's actually a positive trend of maximal inhale pressure over time. And so for me, that's actually really cool to see. Now let me define inhale pressure for those of you that don't understand it. Maximal inhale pressure is my ability to bring in air as fast and as hard as I possibly can to my lungs, which is beneficial in certain sports like CrossFit, in certain sports like swimming, in certain sports where you need to fill those lungs as fast and as hard as possible. So you can actually see a positive trend over time for maximal inhale pressure, and that to me is actually pretty exciting. The same thing can actually also be said for maximal exhale pressure, which is just the opposite of inhale. So if I'm trying to inhale as hard as I possibly can, maximal exhale pressure is how fast can I get the air in my lungs out and dissipate it before I can suck it back in and inhale. And if you look at the graph of exhale pressure, you also see a positive trend, sort of a positive trend in the beginning, and then it's kind of starting to level off a little bit, but still a major positive trend in the beginning. And so I've actually found, I'm actually going to get into this after, but right now we're going to kind of switch over and talk about VO2 max. And then after VO2 max, I'm actually going to talk about not even a data point, but one huge advantage I've actually found from using the Airofit breathing trainer that I wasn't planning on measuring. There's honestly really no way of measuring it, but I still found an advantage regardless. So before we get to that though, let's real briefly jump into VO2 max and see if my VO2 max increase stayed the same or went down.
Okay, we're doing VO2 max test number 2.
Alright, so the last data point we're going to cover, like I mentioned, is VO2 max. And after we cover VO2 max, then we're going to get into what I found was the biggest benefit of using the Airofit trainer that wasn't connected to my data points whatsoever. But we'll get into that right after VO2. So VO2 max was the data point that I chose that wasn't connected to the app itself, right? It wasn't measured via the app, it wasn't measured via the tool, so it was almost like a third-party source. And my third-party source that I used, a third-party company that didn't really care how my review went, was DexaFit KC. DexaFit is actually like a franchise in the United States that allows you to go test your RMR, VO2, body scan, all sorts of cool things. So I've been working with them and getting my VO2 max measured. When I went and got my first VO2 max and my second VO2 max just recently, same treadmill, same room, same guy who gave it, same test. So we're trying to keep all the variables as close as we possibly can. So, for those of you who've been following along, you know that my first VO2 max, and I'm going to make sure to I've got my charts here that kind of show all the resting heart rate and all this cool nerdy stuff that I don't really understand since I went to school for math and not for biology and health and nursing and stuff. So, for those who want to see it, I'll make sure to put that in the screen so you guys can kind of follow along. If you guys recall, my first VO2 max was actually 55.8 milliliters per kilogram per pi to the fourth or whatever the measurement is. And then my most recent VO2 max was actually 55.6. So it actually went down by 0.2, which, talking to Christian afterwards, and I had the discussion, I was like, okay, well, I was hoping it would increase, of course. And I said, okay, is that a significant decrease? And he was like, no, that's really small. I said, okay, well, if that's really small, like, why do you think that might happen? He was like, well, that could happen for any number of reasons. That could happen because maybe you ran too much today, which I didn't that day, or maybe you've been sick, which for those of you that follow me on Instagram know that about 5 days before I took this test, I had a strep throat and 100-degree fever. So I'm not really blaming a lower VO2 max on being sick, but I think that could definitely play a part in it. So the VO2 max did not increase, it actually decreased very insignificantly, but it did decrease. So now we're gonna move on to what I think is probably the most important thing that's actually occurred that I've actually noticed a huge significant difference by using the Airofit breathing trainer. All right, so let me briefly cover what we went over for the 4 data points and then get into what I found is the biggest benefit. I don't think hugest is a word, but the biggest benefit I found. Right now, what I've told you is vital lung capacity is kind of all over the place. It's a data point that I can't use to determine an increase or a decrease in anything because it looks like a shotgun pattern. Inhale and exhale pressure has increased over time. You can kind of see a trend that way. But then VO2 max has either stayed the same or decreased slightly. It depends on how you want to look at it. And so one huge benefit that I have found by using this tool, as you can tell from the data points I presented, is inhale and exhale pressure. And now you might be asking yourself, okay, well, how does that play into CrossFit? And, you know, there's obviously a certain way to breathe in CrossFit, a certain way to breathe during points of time in the thruster, a certain way to breathe during a pull-up, and those are all fine and dandy. But let me ask you this, what is one thing in CrossFit where inhaling and exhaling has to occur at certain periods of time and you're limited when you do it? I'm gonna give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, swimming. Beach to it. Swimming. What I've found is inhaling and exhale pressure in this tool, what it's taught me, I can directly correlate over to swimming. And I've found that over the past 4 weeks, and it's gotten better near the end of these 4 weeks, is my ability to inhale quickly and exhale quickly has vastly improved my ability in the pool where I'm not getting out of the pool and being so gassed. So not only is it allowing me to swim longer because I'm not hitting that threshold where I can't take as much oxygen in because I can't exhale all the CO2 I need, right? Essentially that's a VO2 max. I can swim longer now, and on top of that, I can swim harder for a longer period of time. So in the past, if you were like, all right, Jake, I need you to swim 50 meters on the minute for 10 minutes, which actually, if you remember in one of my videos, was actually one of my 2020 New Year's resolution goals. I want to swim 50 meters on the minute for 10 minutes. I'm sorry, 150 meter on the minute for 10 minutes. That's impossible to swim 10 in a minute. And if you go back and watch that video, that's one of my swimming goals. And I wasn't able to do that because I was getting so gassed. I couldn't get enough oxygen in my body. I couldn't exhale or get all the CO2 out, and I'm just dying because of it, right? On my rest period for 10 seconds, I was just, and then I was just falling apart. But after using this tool for about 4 weeks, I found that my ability and teaching myself how to exhale and then inhale in a very pressurized, quick situation has really helped in swimming. And so, to be honest, like that goal of swimming 50 meters on the minute for 10 minutes, I actually already accomplished that. After using this for about a couple weeks, I actually found that it wasn't very difficult because I wasn't limited because, oh, I'm too heavy, or I wasn't limited because I wasn't have the right technique, or I wasn't limited because, I just was too fat or whatever. I was limited because I was so gassed, because I couldn't get the oxygen I needed in quickly and exhale the CO2. And so you're asking yourself, for those of you who aren't swimmers, what does inhale pressure and exhale pressure have to do with swimming? Well, the fact of the matter is, I'm limited by when I can inhale when I swim. That's when I'm in my stroke and my head's above the water and I'm inhaling as quick and as possible as I can and getting as much oxygen as I can. And then underwater, I'm bracing myself, and then I have to exhale before I go inhale. I'm not exhaling over like a period of time. I'm not like, instead I'm exhaling one time and then, or not through my nose, but I'm exhaling and then inhaling and then swim. And so that's what it's taught me. That's essentially what the drill and the tool has taught me over time. So if there's one huge benefit I found from this tool, and when I mentioned it to actually Airofit themselves, hey, I found a huge benefit in swimming, they actually told me, we've actually heard a lot of people say that. Not only in the swimming space, they've actually had swimmers that have gotten better swimming because of it, but out of the swimming space, me being one of them. So, one huge thing I found from using the Airofit breathing trainer is the fact that my ability to swim and not being so gassed while swimming has vastly improved. Well guys, that is my halfway review, my 4-week review of a total 8-week review to see, hey, can we improve performance by using the Airofit trainer? I'm kind of excited to see what the next 4 weeks bring. Right now we know we're pretty much going to toss out vital lung capacity. I'm excited to see, hey, is there still going to be a positive trend increase for inhale pressure? Is there still going to be a positive trend increase for exhale pressure? Will my VO2 stay the same? Will it increase? Will it decrease a little bit more? And then finally, what I'm actually most interested in is, if given a positive trend increase for inhale pressure and exhale pressure, will my ability to swim longer, harder, and faster continue to increase? I mean, honestly, I'm from Kansas, so I'm not great at swimming. So if I can improve that, that's huge for me. Anyways, guys, if you want some more information on the Airofit trainer, where to find it, descriptions and stuff, that good stuff, I'll have a link in the description down below of where you can find the tool. I'll also put somewhere in here, I'll put a hyperlink so you can kind of type it into your browser. You can't click it. Also, if you're interested in getting an RMR, a body scan, or a VO2 max, and you live near a large city, I guarantee you there's probably a DEXA-Fit in your huge city like Houston or KC or San Francisco. So if you're interested in getting a body scan, RMR, or VO2, I'll have the link in the description down below also, so you can also find that company, and I'll also put a link somewhere on the screen like I mentioned. Anyways, guys, hope you have a wonderful day. I've got 4 more weeks of this to kind of see, hey, can we improve? Will it give me the performance increase I want? There's only one way to find out. See you guys later.